All right, in Unit 1, we also looked at UPC codes. All right, and what we did was we determined how to validate those numbers, and if needed, how to find the check digit or come up with a number to validate that code. All right, and just to remind you, UPC codes are what we call universal product codes, and what they do is they're barcode, as you can see, and every different product that's sold has one. Look at your bag of chips, your clothing. This is what people are scanning when the cashiers scan them across the register. And just to give you a little bit of background, you see it's broken down a little bit right here. They're letting you know that very first number tells you the country code. That's the origin of the manufacturer. And actually that first half of the number kind of tells you who that manufacturer is. All right. Then this little second half tells you the actual product, like what kind of product. Is it a can of Coke? Is it a 6-pack, 8-pack? It even goes, that specific. Is it a bottle? Is it just a can? And the last number is the check digit to make sure that number works. Now, in order for a UPC code to be valid, we've got a formula, and we put that number in the formula, and this is what the register does when they go across and scan it. It lets us know, it has to add up to equal 0, all right, with the way this formula works. So let me take you through it. So down here, we've got a sample product code, all right, and the first thing we do is we either underline or highlight all the numbers in the odd position. So this is the way I like to think of it. I just like to think of an underline skip principle, all right? And you do it for each number. So what we would do is we would start off and we would underline the first number, skip the second one, underline the third one, skip the fourth one, underline the fifth one, skip, underline, skip, underline, skip, underline, skip. So you end up underlining all the odd position digits. All right. So that's the very first step. All you got to do is what I like to call underline skip. All right. And then we're going to separate those numbers into two groups. All right. And once they're separated, we're going to add the numbers in those respective groups. Okay. So all the numbers in the first group will get added together. Those are the numbers we underlined, the ones that were in the odd positions. And then all the even numbers, the ones we left alone, will get summed together. All right? And whatever we got for the odd position numbers, that first group, is going to get multiplied by 3. And that's why I had that little reminder at the top. Because we also do this with credit cards, but you have to multiply by a different number. So UPC, that's 3 letters. So that means you're going to multiply by 3. All right? So we only multiply that first group, and then we add those two totals together. All right? And if that number, that total, ends up having a 0 number, a 0 at the end, that means it's a multiple of 10. Like if it ends up adding to be 30, 50, 70, 120, as long as that last digit is 0, that code is valid. All right? So all of this was to just organize it. Now we're going to actually sum it up, or you could have summed it up ahead of time. But let's see what we get. So I'm adding this first one. 12. Alright, I got 25 for the first group, so we got 3 times 25 plus, let's see, the second group, 35, I got 35 out of the second group. Alright? And let's see, 3 times 25 is 75 plus 35. And if we add those two together, we should get 110. So that means that that code from above is valid, and it should be because it was an actual barcode from a product. And it's valid because that last number is a 0. So as long as you go through this process, and after you get finished doing that last bit of addition, if that last digit of your sum is a 0, that code is valid. All right? Now, the other number, there is a single digit that's very important, and that's the check digit. That's what that last number in the UPC code is. And that's what determines if the code is valid. Because all the countries have their own particular code. Every company has its code. Every product has its code. So that means that number at the end is the only variable that it's not assigned. All right. So for our purposes, we're going to look at an example where we've got a code. So, the country's been assigned, so has the manufacturer, so has the product code. We need to figure out what the check digit, what that last number needs to be, so that the computer, when they get to the register, will be able to read the code. All right? So what we would do is go through the process, all right, those steps that we just did before, and see if we can figure out what it needs to be. So remember, we had underline, skip, underline, skip, underline, skip, underline, skip, underline, skip, underline. All right? So all those numbers that we underline, we're going to group together the first group, our odd position number. So 5 plus 1 plus 3 plus 0 plus 9 plus 1. All right? So that's group 1. That's the group that gets multiplied by 3. All right? And now, we're going to add in our other group. Let's change colors. So these are all the numbers I didn't underline. So that's going to be 2 plus 1 plus 6 plus 4 plus 2. And I'm going to close it there because I've still got to figure out what the check digit would be. But good news is the check digit would have been in this second group, this group. So it doesn't have to be multiplied. That's why we can just leave it out as there is some other number we don't know. All right. So what we would do is go through the process like we have. So this is going to be 3 times, let's see, that'll be 6, 9, 18. So 3 times 19 plus, and out of this second group, we get 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 6 is 9, 13, 14, we get 15. All right. And don't worry, I didn't forget, we still got some check digits. All right, so let's see, 3 times 19, that's going to be 57, plus 15, plus something else, means it equals some number that ends with a 0. All right, so let's see, so what I have right here is 72 plus something. And it's something with a 0. So if we look at this, we're at 72. We can't go backwards to get to 70. So we need to get to the next number that ends with a 0. So let's think about where 72 is. So if we got 72, it's just past 70, and the next number that ends with a 0 would have to be 80. All right. So the question is 72 plus what is equal to 80? All right. And you know, you can do some quick algebra and subtract from both sides, but you should come up with 8. All right. So what that means is the check digit for that product code we had above would have to be 8. No other number will work to make that happen. All right. And just also as a reminder, the check digit is sometimes referred to with the variable D. All right. That's probably what we remember it as. So D is 8. All right. So here's a little practice where you can practice verifying those numbers, get used to it, and even for some, I'll tell you what, let's make up a 5th one. And then this one, you can actually try to find the check digit on your own. All right. So let's go with 9222183 dash 49511. All right. And you got to figure out what that check is.